Welcome to the Citizen Mike Show. Thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. My name is Mike Brodinski, and somewhere on that split screen is Christopher K. Shortell. Chris, welcome back. We've been on a long hiatus.
Mhm.
A lot of things have happened over the summer in the course of future episodes of the Citizen Mike Show. We'll catch up on some of that, but everyone's talking about the national elections. And I wanted to run by you some numbers that reflect new voters in Wallingford since July 1 by party, and see what your take on it is. Democrats seem to have a slight edge. Democrats 471 new voters since July 1, Republicans 390, unaffiliated 919, and there's some minor parties for 63. Whoa. Who, what?
There.
What? That's Barbara. Who, how did you hack, or what did you do? How did you get in here? What
I
happened?
thought I wanted to pop in.
You're at all these meetings, that we want to have
I
secret.
know.
Yeah, well, Chris, let's abandon our little trivial conversation and talk to Barbara, because
Sure.
Hey, Chris.
she's a busy lady.
Hey,
She
Barbara.
has to go. Let's get down to business. Barbara, we know from general reading that town clerk's offices across the state are really busy. And those who have visited the Wallingford town clerk's office in the past, you don't have a lot of staff. You have adequate staff, but not a lot of staff, but nothing that you need to handle what's going on now. Who's helping you out with all this mail-in ballot stuff?
So, yes, so I have a great staff, obviously. So, but there's only, there's 4 of us plus my part-timer. And right now we have 4 great volunteers coming in on a daily basis, really great, some great ladies. And then I have a part-timer from the Park and Rec department and a part-timer from Public Works coming in. So that's what we're doing.
So are you able to keep on top of everything?
So yeah, at first I was really worried about that, Mike. I was actually very nervous, wasn't sleeping at night thinking about it. But the first set of ballots had to go out Friday, and we sent out 7,000 ballots that we had no applications left on Friday afternoon when we went to the post office. So we are being very successful at this time.
So what would the turnaround be if someone sends you an application for an absentee ballot? When could they expect their ballot?
So traditionally, when you put your application in with the clerk, the statute says that the clerk has to return the ballot, has to get the ballot out the door within 24 hours. With COVID, a lot of statutes have been changed. So now we have 48 hours to get the ballot out the door, because we have so many that we have to deal with. And that 48 hours starts ticking as of this past Monday, because now we're in ballot season once October 2nd came.
Yeah. Chris, are you voting by absentee ballot? Uh-oh. So what's the Shortell family going to do this year?
Well, I put in for an absentee. I don't know what my wife did yet. I think she
Oh, you got
did
your
too.
ballot right there.
I got my ballot right there. I got 5. I got a whole stack. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, the answer to the question, Mike, I have no, given the choice of voting absentee, I have 2 kids in the schools that are in school right now. So I don't, who knows with COVID, what my exposure is, what their exposure is. I have no desire to expose anybody else to it. And, I can't predict the future when November or whatever the day is, November 3rd or 4th comes around. So 3rd, thank you. You know the day. So it was a no-brainer that I decided to vote absentee.
Barbara, you've got some extra expense because of staff, I think, and materials and supplies. Do you have any extra money?
No, not at all. So the Secretary of State is sending, basically, she has a federal CARES Act grant, and she is just basically sending money to each town based on how many polling places, how many registered voters you have, and the money is to be shared between the registrars and the town clerk. So Wallingford's going to receive $40,000 between the primary and the general election. We've already received about 15,000. I've received the first 6 of it. We still have to allocate the second little portion we got. It comes in little portions, and I'll be looking for more.
So Chris and I both are wondering about ballot security, mail-in, fraud that some say is associated, inextricably linked to mail-in voting, drop boxes, that kind of thing. Chris, why don't you take the first swing at this and I'll mop up. You got any thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're lumping a lot in there. I think there's some separate stuff in there. I think so. I'll pick out one thing. Barbara, there was a concern about the security of those boxes. The state provided those ballot boxes. They were intended to be outdoors, and after some back and forth, they are outdoors mostly. I think there's one that may not be. I guess my question was, were you concerned about those boxes being vandalized?
Not at all. I wanted the boxes outside from the start, but I obviously wasn't going to get in the middle of that fight.
Right. I wasn't concerned either. But I wanted to. Yeah, I didn't know how many. Do you know how many ballots came in those boxes from the primary, or do you know that? Or
no? So we started to keep a little bit of a track, and then it really became impossible to keep track because you're emptying them a certain amount of times a day. So
right.
So we've already started to get ballots back from the general election from what we just mailed out. We have gotten nothing back from the USPS yet we've already received back 476 ballots through those boxes since Monday.
I just have to say, so I did vote in the primary. I think I know I voted in the primary. I submitted a ballot. I'm not sure I actually voted, but I submitted a ballot. We'll just leave that one. You can interpret that to what you will.
Correct. I know what you're saying.
But I've never used one of those boxes before, and I couldn't open. Like, the thing opens like this much. Like, it is insane.
Well, a lot of people seem to have a little bit of a trouble with that, and sometimes we have to go out and help them.
Yeah, I almost felt like after I did it, my concern was less with vandalism and more with like arthritis and carpal tunnel for anyone who uses them, because they're so hard to open. But anyway,
Barbara,
they're pretty hard to vandalize.
Yep.
Let me get to the broader question of election security. Are you getting any whiff of voter fraud because of the mail-in situation, the mail-in ballots? Or is it a pretty secure system?
I think we have a very secure system the way we do it.
Walk us through that, and what's your basis for that?
So basically how it works is you have to, in Connecticut, you have to request an absentee ballot. Okay, so you fill out your absentee ballot application. It comes to us. We put it into the Connecticut voter registration system. We send you the ballot. So the ballot comes back to us. We scan the ballot back into the Connecticut voter registration system, which you actually can follow and log in and follow it. And it scans in that it's received. So let's pretend it's Chris Shortell. We've received his ballot back. Now, when the official voter checkoff list is printed to go to the polls, Chris Shortell at blank blank address has a red A next to his name. This means absentee. And then the cross-off people who meet prior, they're now going to meet 14 days prior to the election because of COVID, they're getting extra time. They physically look at that ballot on his street, his name, and then take that red A and take a red pen and continue the red A to the name and do a full line. So there's this double check to that. And then when that official checklist is at the polls, it's a red A and a red line over Chris Shortell's name. So when if he's to try to walk into the polls, which we please ask you not to do and tie up the polls, the checker is going to say, "I'm sorry, sir, but you've already voted by absentee."
So I feel like I'm going to ask a dumb question. Supposing I want to vote twice by absentee, I get a
So,
hold of, can
We,
that,
we,
I
so we had,
photocopy my ballot or something.
we
I
had
don't
a
know.
lot, so Mike, we had a lot of folks who would not, we kept imploring people to please wait for the application that the Secretary of State was mailing them. Because it was an easier application for us because it has a barcode and we could scan it. Well, many, 800 people were impatient and printed it and had to send their own form. And then the lovely little folks, when they got the form in the mail, decided to send a second form, just in case we didn't get that first form. So there you go. This is how we catch the system. We did the first form and we got Mary Sue, her application, her ballot already. Then Mary Sue decides, I'm going to send them a second form because I don't trust them. We go to scan the second form because we have thousands. We don't know it's a second form. Bing, system comes up and goes, we've already issued a ballot for this person.
Ah,
And if we want to, we can go into another screen and look and go, oh yes, on this date, here is the serial number. It's already issued. And then we take that application, we go find the date that that other application was issued and attach that application to it. And only one ballot is sent to Mary Sue.
so are you finding that you're getting sort of pushback from the public questioning the system? And maybe give us an anecdote or two or story or two about conversations you've had and how you've dealt with it and whether or not you've maintained your sense of humor through all this.
Sometimes I maintain my sense of humor. Sometimes I get angry and I can't help it. And my whole staff is both the same way. So it's the people are watching the national news big time. So one, for instance, was a woman called and was hysterical over the phone that she wants to go to the polls. She doesn't want to do an absentee ballot, but my gosh, I just watching the national news and I don't know if the polling places will be open because volunteers are at the polling places and they're saying volunteers won't show up because of COVID. So I think I should get an absentee ballot. And I said, well, ma'am, we're in Wallingford, in state of Connecticut, we pay the poll workers. They're not volunteers, they're paid employees. Well, they're volunteers, but they're paid. They paid for the day and all the polls will be open in the town of Wallingford on election day. But if you want an absentee ballot, it's your right. We're happy to send you one, fill out an application. Oh, I had no idea that poll workers are paid. The whole state of Connecticut are poll workers paid? Yes, every poll worker in the state of Connecticut is paid. Oh, but the national news doesn't say that. They said the national news doesn't cover just Connecticut. They're talking broadly about the entire United States. And that's one example. Another example is people, just today, I'm going out, I emptied the drop boxes 4 times. They were very full. So I'm going out, I'm emptying the drop box and a much older man comes to put his ballot into the drop box. He's got the mask, gloves, he's all covered up like crazy. Then I said to him, I'm just about to unlock it. And I said to him, would you like to put it in my mail bucket, sir? I'm about to open it. I'm the town clerk. No, I want to put it in the box myself. I said, I'm just going to open it and take it right out. No, move away and let me put it in the box myself. Yes, sir. Okay. Moved away. My keys are dangling from the box. It's obvious I'm going to open it. He puts it in the box. He goes, I don't trust any of you people.
Mhm.
And I engaged him in conversation. I explained the system like we just went over. And at the end of a 5-7 minute conversation, he said, you're pretty nice. I think maybe I can trust you. I said, I think you can trust us here. We do a good job locally. So there's a lot of engagement with public. The public is very interested in how we're doing it. It's the first time ever they've wanted to know how we do it, but they're asking a ton of questions. They're watching not the local news, they're watching national news. They're very confused and they're very irate. So we're trying our best to educate them so that they can feel calm and secure in the process, at least in the town of Wallingford. And I hope the state of Connecticut.
Chris, any thoughts on Barbara's report there?
That's not, I don't want to disagree with Barbara. That's not the national news. That's the president. That anger and distrust comes from our leader. It does not come from the national news. It comes from the inflammatory things he tweets and says. And then what it does is it casts doubt on every level of government. And now you have someone like Barbara, who has to now give this random voter, defend herself. Words mean
Every
things.
hour.
We're right. There was a headline today about we're backing out of he's not going to do the deal, and the stock market, the Dow went down 600 points. I mean, so it's like when a leader speaks, the markets listen and the public listens, and it's more than just, oh, he's just got to put the phone down. No, this is what happens, and it filters down. It's just infuriating. Anyway, that's Mike. I'm sorry. Did I answer your question?
No. I, as the town clerk, though, I have to say I stay extremely impartial. I don't ever talk politics during the election time with anyone, because we become a polling place as of October 2nd, and so we can't engage. We cannot engage.
Right.
Barbara, a compound question for you. What do you estimate the volume of absentee ballots are going to be that you're going to be processing through your office when it's all said and done? And as part of that, have you had any contact with the post office to coordinate, and how have they been, cooperating, or any other way you want to phrase it?
So today we've issued almost 7,300 absentee ballots. My gauge is about 12,000, I'm thinking, by election day.
Okay.
I think that's where we're going to go. I thought I had a good relationship going on with the post office, and it seems to have come to a close.
You mean local, the local post? Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. The postmaster and I had a very good understanding during the primary, and now I'm not getting any communication at all, and I'm not happy about it at all. And our mail delivery comes extremely late at town hall, so it's very hard to process applications and get mail out when it only arrives in the town hall building at 2 and 2:30 in the afternoon, and you're trying to process applications and then have them posted before 5 o'clock and back over to the post office. So it's not productive.
Let me shift the focus to election day, election night, and when interested folks like Christopher K. Shortell can get results. Walk us through the timing of that.
So we're going to be reporting the 9 polling districts on November 3rd. That is what we're going to be doing, and that's our requirement this year with COVID. They went into special session, and there's a lot of new things that we have to adhere to. We will be doing the absentee ballot counting. We are allowed to do for 5 days from election day and 5 days thereafter. So we don't have to have our entire town tally until Monday, November 9th. Now, obviously, we being Wallingford, we like to do things faster and better. So we're hoping to get it maybe completed Thursday or Friday, because we are allowed to start the cross-offs. We're going to start them on October 20. That's how early we're allowed to start doing that. And then they also, the new rule is that the absentee ballot counters can take these things at very odd time, 5 p.m. on Friday night before the election.
October 30th, right?
Thank you. I had to look at my calendar, October 30, but at 5 p.m., what a strange time. They can take the absentee ballots that we have in hand, and they can open the serial numbered envelope, which traditionally is never opened until election day. They can open the serial numbered envelope and set it aside to just check the inner envelopes to make sure that the signature and date is there, and void, take the ones that are not signed. If an inner envelope is not signed, that ballot can't be counted. That is a voided ballot, because if you don't sign your inner envelope, that's part of the process. Your ballot is not counted, then it's a voided ballot. So it's to help speed the process of when they open the inner envelope on election morning at 6 a.m., that they're going to start opening these things at 5 o'clock Friday night and throughout the weekend.
So
that's new.
On Tuesday night, what time do you think you'll have the results at the polls, the people that showed up in person to vote? Usually
So
8:30 or something like that, but
no, 8:30, Mike?
maybe I'm
No,
getting late.
Mike, I mean, we had a primary that was so basic. If you think about it, there was, it was the most basic primary, and I still only got out of there at 10:30.
Okay,
So 9 polling places, 9 moderators, closing up. So we've got a lot of new people working the polls. A lot of the regular moderators some have moved out of town. A lot of them are not working because of COVID. They're older. We've got a lot of new people at the polling places this year. So it's a little slower close at the end of the night. So it's a little slower coming back to the clerk's office with the numbers. My guess is we don't finish before 11-ish.
and
Plus,
then
it's a
how
bigger
would we,
ballot.
yeah, I'm sorry, I stepped on your voice there. How would we find out? Would you tell the Record Journal what the results are, or how would that work? 'Cause we're
Well,
curious.
a lot of times the reporter comes in and sits and waits for the result. Sometimes they call. It depends on how they ask for it.
Okay. Lauren Zakoris, I don't know if you're listening, but so now more people are probably going to be voting by absentee, or
Well,
50-50.
it's about 50-50, I think. It's going to be about 50-50.
So we then would wait till Thursday after election.
Could be Monday. I can't guarantee anything.
Okay.
I'd like to go home for that weekend, that Friday.
Yeah.
With my head moderator return done and done.
How about
That's
your
my
website?
goal.
How about your website? Might you be able to put something on the website in real time as to, what the results are or when to expect?
You know what? I'll discuss that. And I think that's a good idea, Mike. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes. Good
Brother
idea.
Brother Shortell, any thoughts?
Excuse me. I do. I don't mean to disrupt the flow here. Can I go back I know you hate this. You're so organized, and I'm going back a little bit. Barbara, quickly, what's the mechanism if I wanted to fill out an absentee ballot in Mike Brudzinski's name and get that, and I still was going to go as myself because I assume people know me, so I can't go as Mike. They'll know that I'm not Mike. But I might vote absentee, forging Mike's name, getting the ballot, he gets crossed. Like, how does that, is there a mechanism to prevent that, or how does that is it compared signatures?
Connecticut by state statute, we are not a signature state. We do not. So when you watch the national news and they tell you, oh, we're looking at signatures, that's not Connecticut. It's not in our statute. We do not check signatures. All we do is check that their signature is on the envelope. It's not checked to anybody's signature. No.
So I could.
But if you were to fill out an application that is not in your name and submit it, and you're caught, it's a federal offense.
Okay, but I'm just playing. I'm just trying to. But
Devil's
I could
advocate. Right.
I could go to an apartment complex in town where there's a lot of loose mail, maybe by the mailbox area, and all these applications that were sent out. I think every registered voter got an application.
Every registered voter.
And I could go there, a week later and find 5 of them on the floor that never got picked up or got thrown in the trash. And in theory, I could take those.
You're good. But you're breaking a lot of laws. You're breaking the federal law of the post office, the voting, so if you get caught, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. And then you'd have to be there to receive the ballot.
Yeah, I'd have to intercept the actual ballot.
You would.
Okay. All right. So that was just a hypothetical.
But I understand. But let's not give people too many ideas.
No, I'm not. I just like to, just a hypothetical.
Well,
sorry.
Chris, do you think the system is secure, or are you worried about this?
I'm not worried in Connecticut. I worry. I know that on the left, voter fraud is this big myth that doesn't happen, and on the right, it's a big deal. And I feel like there's a C.S. Lewis quote, which I would say is sort of what I would apply to the situation. C.S. Lewis, the great writer and philosopher, was talking about the devil, and he said there are 2 equal and opposite errors into which our race can fall about devils. One is to disbelieve in their existence, and the other is to find an excessive and unhealthy interest in them. And I feel like that could be applied to voter fraud. So what I worry about is in a state like Florida, where we had a presidential election 20 years ago decided by less than 600 votes. And so that's where if 300 people in Florida are able to do what I just described, it's a minute percentage, but it can swing an election. So I do worry a little bit in places like that, Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio. I don't know. I mean, am I overthinking it?
Well, no, you're not overthinking
No.
it, but I want to, I got to research something that you said for the next show. I think the Florida case had to do with hanging chads, and I don't think they were limited to mail in.
No. You're missing my point. You're missing my point.
Okay.
The final count in Florida.
Yeah.
When they finished, and then they went back. The final vote count, Bush won that state by like 530 votes. My point is that tells me that if less than 300 people did what I just described, and they did it in one direction for Gore in that instance, but it could be any direction in this election, it would have swung the election. That was my point. Is that the election was that close.
So you're defending Mark Meadows and Trump and Pence, or are you?
I'm saying in a close election, it only takes a fraction of a percent. You guys are like to say voter fraud happens in 0.001% of cases. Well, in an election that's decided by what, 500 votes or 600 votes, that 0.001%
matters.
Couldn't it matter?
Yes, it could.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
No one's saying it couldn't happen. What I'm trying to pull out of you is, so you're siding with the Trump team, throw out all the absentee ballots, I think is where you're leading.
No, you asked me if you're creating a false choice. You're asking.
Okay, good. I want you to clear it up. You
asked me if I was concerned, and I said, I'm not concerned in Connecticut. I'm concerned in a place like Florida. And I don't go from that to having I'm concerned, therefore my solution is don't vote absentee. I didn't say that. I'm concerned when I get on an airplane. It doesn't mean I don't want them to fly the plane. It just means I'm concerned.
Look, in 30 seconds, I just want to bottom line what you are saying. In a close election, if Florida is won by one party by 600 votes, I don't know who the winner is going to be. You're saying what? Accept the 600 votes?
I'm saying accept it, but I'm saying don't. That could be an example where what if voter fraud plays a role in that?
We'll have to discuss this another show. I don't know where you are.
Barbara, do you know what I'm saying? Barbara, do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand exactly what you're saying.
Thank you.
Well, then someone explain it to me. Do we accept the count in Florida that's squeaky tight, or do you contest?
Yeah, I'm not saying don't accept the count. I'm saying, but I'm saying don't completely dismiss voter fraud and say, well, it doesn't exist and it has no impact. How do you know?
Right, because there are cases where it's happening.
Right.
All right, we're going to get into this in another show.
We don't even know. It could be happening in Bridgeport, Connecticut, as far as we know. We really don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm gonna close, and then we'll sign Barbara off on this topic. There's a lot more squawking about unfounded claims of voter fraud than there is evidence of voter fraud. And every time someone goes on a media, whether it's a show like this, national news or state news, and they talk about how voter fraud is going to skew the election, you're playing right into the hands of those people that would sow chaos and have the courts decide who won the election rather than the count. And so I don't really think that on balance, it's a constructive suggestion. You acknowledge isolated cases and you can hypothesize and speculate. In a wild scenario, the election is going to go to someone who doesn't deserve it, but that's not how you instill confidence in a voter system, in a voting system. And we had Barbara on tonight to tell us how it's working in Connecticut. I'm absolutely confident. Barbara, any final words? And Chris Shortell and I will battle it out on another show. But any final thoughts?
No, I agree with you, Mike. I feel very confident in how Connecticut does their absentee balloting. I mean, we've been doing it a long time. I think we're pretty good at it. We have a lot of checks and balances. I think the public should feel secure in how the process is going. I think there are 169 towns and 169 town clerks are working very hard to keep it, above board. going right. Everybody has extra help, and everybody's trying to do the right thing. Everybody just needs to keep cool heads, ask their questions nicely, so that we can answer their questions nicely. And I think my advice to the public would be to get your application in as soon as possible if you have not, and then use the drop boxes, please, for your applications and for your ballots, and only vote once.
Barbara, thanks for coming on. And good luck election night. That we are rooting for you.
All right.
Yeah, so sign off, and Chris and I will continue on with another topic.
All right. Well,
Thanks again.
Good to see you both. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Yes.
You ready to talk about the blight ordinance,
Let's talk CMAC. Yeah,
blight
sure.
enforcement,
Sure.
executive sessions,
Yep.
that kind of thing?
Yep.
I think it's an interesting choice for tonight's conversation because it touches on different issues in local government. And what I'm talking about, of course, is a case that was reported in the Record Journal twice in recent times. And it had to do with an attempted blight enforcement on a property in the center of town. We're going to show some photos of that property in just a second. And a sizable, the property was in tough shape for many, many, many years. But finally, the building department sent a notice of violation of the blight ordinance to the owner of the property, and eventually a citation saying, clean it up or we'll fine you. And it sort of dragged on, and finally the blight lien, $100 a day for every day of violation, built up to over $50,000. And the town council recently voted to compromise that blight lien in a severe fashion. Before I get your reaction though, Chris, I want you to bear with me because I think I do sort of a chronology of events, and I got this from the file of the law department, so it's all a matter of public record. But just bear with me, and I'm going to ask you at the end for various reactions and things like that. But the property was called 26 Quinnipiac Ave, which is the home of T-Bone's Bar and Grill, right? I think that's
Used to be, yeah.
Yeah, right by the old train station. The building was taken down in June. September 2018, folks, keep track of these dates because they become interesting. September 2018, there's a notice of violation. The notice of violation gave the owner until December 21, 3 months, to fix the problem, which, by the way, had gotten worse and worse and worse over years. I mean, this wasn't something that happened overnight. On July 10, a citation was issued stating that fines would begin on January 17, 2019 at $100 a day. And a copy of an appeal was filed to that citation. And the procedure is, which is important, when an appeal is filed, where does it go? It goes to the law department, and the law department is responsible for handling that appeal, meaning setting up a hearing on the appeal. So notice of the appeal went to the law department on or about January 18, 2019. Shortly after that, the law department stayed the hearing because the owner expressed some interest in fixing the problem. So an appeal was filed. The hearing was not scheduled. The law department did not schedule the hearing because they thought progress would be made. Hearing was not scheduled, and that takes us now to 9 months later. It's September 2019. The building is not improved. The condition does not change. There's a photo in the Record Journal of the T-Bones Bar and Grill, with workers taking siding off in September 2019. So the building now is in worse shape. The law department contacts the owner, who says, well, we're still working on the problem, but in fact, nothing was accomplished. Finally, the building department sent a memo to the law department requesting that a lien be placed to enforce the fine of $100 a day. That was in February 2020. Then in February 2020, the law department was told, well, the property is not going to be fixed up. It's going to be sold. And then, well, I guess everyone's patience runs out. And in February 21 of 2020, there's a notice of a hearing on this blight appeal. That's sort of a critical step, I gather, in enforcing the lien accruing at $100 a day. March 4, 2020, the appeal was denied. March 6, a lien was filed. On June 16, the building was demolished. And on July 20 of 2020, the town calculated the lien at $100 a day from December 21, 2018 through July 10, 2020 at $56,700. That was later adjusted downward slightly because the law department made a mistake. All of which that I just described, and thank you for your patience, is a matter of public record and could have been discussed publicly, should have been discussed publicly, but was not. Presumably some of this, although it's certainly not all of it, was discussed in secret behind closed doors in executive session. Why, Chris?
I don't know. I was zoning out. Go back to what happened in February again? No, I'm kidding. Look, you have to understand. Well, you do understand, and you're going to criticize it. The way these executive sessions go, we get to this. We get them on the agenda. They're usually late in the agenda, depending on they're usually toward the bottom. And it's either it's a legal dispute like this typically, and we get to this point in the meeting, and so my spider senses don't probably do a good job of activating to say, wait a minute, why aren't we talking about this in public? I am more trying to marshal up the mental stamina to know I'm going into executive session. There's going to be a couple lawyers. I'm not talking about even our lawyers in town, but there's oftentimes there are other lawyers that come in, consultants, whatever. And now I have to sit through some long explanation, and I'm just trying to follow it so I can make an educated decision. So anyway, to answer your question, but I don't know. I don't know why we don't do what you just did and then go into executive session. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And at the end, but it's a very simple answer, really. You don't do it because no one wants to do it. No one wants to change an abusive system if they're comfortable with it. And I'm including all 9 counselors, Democrats included. I mean, if anyone should be pushing for transparency and keeping matters in the public that belong in the public, you'd think it'd be the loyal opposition, the minority party. But no, all 9 counselors are very comfortable with a system of abusing executive session. And so no 9 counselors are going to change it. It was interesting that the minutes of the meeting indicate, and actually I watched the meeting, when the council came out of executive session, on the night they decided not to accept the 20% compromise, the vote was later changed 2 weeks later. I think it was Craig Fishbein who mentioned that the proposed settlement, which was rejected, was 20% of the lien. At that point, Chairman Cervoni lost his patience, got a little anger in his voice, and tried to bully Craig Fishbein into not talking about it. That sort of exemplifies the position of the mayor, the chairman of the council, the law department, which is if you can keep it secret somehow, then do it, rather than the reverse, which should be everything that can be public should be public. And it's nothing new. It's for years, the council has been abusing executive session, which leads to sloppy decisions, because in private, behind closed doors, town officials can select the information they want to give you, manipulate the decision, pick and choose the facts they want to stress, and not give the whole story. That's my, well, it's more than suspicion. It does go on. And the protection of the public, and which gives them better decisions, is have all this public stuff in public to force the people giving you the information to give you the complete story. Now, this is a drum I've been beating for years, as you know. I mean, it goes back, for 15, 20 years with me, fighting the abuses of executive session. And I know nothing's going to change, but every time I get a chance to beat the drum, I'm going to do it. Your thoughts?
I'm just so grateful that I'm here right now as you beat that drum, that I am in this moment in my life. I get to be here to be part of that with you.
There you go. Well,
I think, and I think that when you talk about all 9 counselors, there's a lot to unpack there. You talk about all of us being complicit. I'm not going to, sure, I guess we are. I guess, again, I'm not, thinking about always. I'm sort of getting geared up for the issue. What is it they're going to run by me in executive session? What am I going to have to evaluate? Am I going to agree with it? Am I not going to agree with it? You can't vote. You can't obviously vote in executive session, but people express opinions about how they feel about whatever's being thrown their way. And so, and a lot of it for me, not being a lawyer, I'm more, since all of these things in executive session tend to be legal matters, I think unless they're real estate, potential real estate purchases, I feel like, again, I'm extra focused on sort of the issue part, making sure I can understand the issue versus should we be talking about this in public or not? And I would suspect other counselors might be in the same boat that I am who aren't lawyers. So
let's take a break and show photos of that property. I think it's about 24 seconds. There'll be no voiceover the way we got to edit these in. So I think there's 5 photos. Let's hit that. 3, 2, 1. So Chris, that was the property, ugly for sure. Those photos, I believe, were taken in September 2019. I want to get back to the merits of the case. The town took the position initially that the accrued fines, $100 a day for every day of a violation, was over $50,000. But the property owner said this. The property owner said that, all of which is a matter of public record too, by the way. And if the property owner said it, there's no sense in keeping it a secret from the property owner. He knows it, he said it. But he said, there is a provision in the blight ordinance that allows the town to defer enforcement of the lien while the property owner remedies the problem. And the property owner said that when they filed an appeal in January of 2019, and the law department then did not schedule a hearing, there was an inference because there was a discussion about, when the property owner was going to fix this up. Mm-hmm. The property owner said, well, there was an inference there that by not scheduling the hearing, that would lead a reasonable person to believe that they were being allowed more time to fix the property up. And they said the town was just following the ordinance, forgetting for a minute that the building enforcement officer, the code enforcement officer gave him 90 days in 2018. But in 2019, the law department didn't schedule a hearing, leading them to believe, well, we have even more time. And that was their argument. And frankly, it's not a bad argument, but it seems like someone didn't keep their eye on the ball. The property was deteriorating, work wasn't getting done, the hearing wasn't scheduled until like a year later. Let me change the subject and get your philosophy on blight liens and fines and enforcement of fines. You were one of the ones, I think, that voted to compromise the lien. Tell us your thoughts, your theory, your rationale for that.
Well, I think that the purpose of the ordinance and the penalty is to get change to occur, to make improvements, to get the owner to do something and fix the problem. And in this instance, he was trying to sell it. He was going to, he had raised the building. And so I felt like I was okay with how it all, at the end of the day, I was okay with just getting what we got and moving on. I understand that there's all sorts of counter arguments to that. One being, well, does that mean that the ordinance doesn't mean anything? That the rules don't matter. It's gonna set an example for others. I don't think so. I think these cases are very situational. I think you take each one individually and you look at it on its merits. I mean, the town settles things all the time with people, whether it's tax settlements, all sorts of settlements. So it's not like the town always gets 100% of what's owed to it. I heard one comparison. Well, it's like the hotel. Well, no, it's not, because the hotel tax abatement was us giving away money, as you pointed out. I think you pointed out, maybe you did, but I think you wrote a column about it. But it was us giving away money, tax revenue, which is budgeted revenue. This was not giving away budgeted revenue. We don't budget blight money. So I guess to me, it wasn't. It was a way to sort of just get out of this situation and move on, facilitate the sale of the property to somebody else, and the problem was gone because the building was raised. So you can tear me apart now on that.
No. I just want to add some perspective to it. This is not the only big blight case that's probably going to come across your desk. I think there's probably other large fines accruing as we talk.
Mm-hmm.
They're accruing because building owners are not fixing the problem. Now, there are those who can say, I feel sorry for those building owners. The town is on them, they're accruing fines, but that isn't how it really works. It takes a long time for the building to get in such disrepair that it becomes a blight, a blight violation. The entire neighborhood suffers if there's a house in a neighborhood that's blighted. Try to sell your house if you live right next door to a blighted property. You can't do it. In the commercial zone, if there's a commercial building, customers don't want to walk into a shop that's right next to a blighted building. It just gives a bad feeling about it. So they're victims to blight, and the victim is not the property owner. The building department, I would say always, tries to encourage, coax, and warn the owner before severe action is taken, and a citation and fines are levied only as a last resort. And when the building official does that, people have to take him seriously. And up comes the Wallingford Town Council and says, no, we really don't. We feel sorry for the property owner. They can't sell their house with a lien on it. And guess what? That's the purpose of liens. Yeah, you're right. The whole purpose of a lien, which is part of the ordinance that the town council voted on and passed, the whole purpose of a lien is you can't sell your house until you take care of the lien. So when you get a lien notice, you better take it seriously and jump to it. Get a loan from a bank if you have to and fix up the property. It's going to be a lot cheaper in the long run than paying $100 a day. Oh, I forgot. The council will waive that lien, maybe 80 or 90%, because they don't want to hold up a closing, or they say money doesn't matter. They say, it's all situational, but it becomes kind of a trend and word gets around that the town isn't taking it seriously. Your thoughts?
God, that's my thoughts. It's a trend. This is the first one I've dealt with in almost 5 years on the council. So If there's, so I mean, I don't know if it's a trend or not. It's my first one. I think it's my first one. I don't recall another one. There's as far as taking a loan out and fixing it up. Well, he demolished the building, so I don't know what he's going to fix up. The problem is gone.
Well, he demolished it in June of 2020 after getting a notice of violation in September of 2018.
It worked. It worked. The building's
You
gone.
call that working? You call that working? Interesting.
Problem solved. Problem solved. And that, you know, and I everything, I don't disagree with your point that wherever it is in town, a house on a street, you're right, that wherever it is in town, it affects the surrounding area. But I would argue, this is what I said, I take every one of these situationally. This particular one, I was more concerned with facilitating a sale in this location because of where it is, because it's in this downtown economic zone. It's near the future brew pub train station.
You know, I got to interrupt, but who cares? Why is that even relevant? Why is that even important?
Well, I think it's relevant, especially with everything going on with COVID. I don't think the situation with COVID is going to make it easier for businesses to open in town. And so any property owner or a buyer who's willing to come in of all times now in this point in history, I think it's doubly important for that location. I do think for economic development.
Yeah, I guess we got to clear up some things. If there's a blight lien, on the property, I guess one position could be if the owner doesn't want to fix it, we just wait until he's good and ready. If it's in the select place in town, we just let it be a blighted building month after month after month after month, because that's an important part of town. And eventually it'll be taken care of and it'll work. And I say, that's what failure looks like. That's what failure looks like, not success. You have a blighted property in a desirable area. That's when you jump on it, you get tough, and you get quick compliance. And if you file a lien and there's no progress right away, you foreclose on the lien and it'll all work out that way. But having endless patience serves no one. And I'm just afraid this argument that, well, we want to be nice guys and facilitate a closing because, that's the only way the property is going to be fixed up. I think you guys publicly should have a long conversation about the merits of that argument, which I find very faulty and not in the best interest of Wallingford. What's best for Wallingford is you get tough, you get strict, and you show that you're no nonsense. And that's when property owners will respond. And if they don't, you foreclose on the lien. And the property owner is not the victim in that situation.
Right. But your issue with this specific case is with the process. It's not with the result. In the sense that there is no property, the blight is gone.
Yeah,
the blight is gone. So your issue is with how we got to this point. So I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I would say in this case, well, it's gone. He demolished it. Let's move on. Like I don't see. I don't know. I guess I'm.
Well, when you, I don't want to be.
I feel like you're acting like the way you're saying it almost I know you don't mean to give the impression. It almost sounds like you guys settled on the amount of the fine and the building's still there and it looks like crap and nothing changed. And I'm saying, well, no, something did change. And
what I'm saying is not that at all. And I'm saying the opposite of you. You say it's situational and I say, no, there should be uniform policy.
Okay.
Uniform policy and not situational. So you don't do favors and now you're lenient in one case and strict in another case. You have a policy and you let that policy be shouted from the rooftops. You violate the lien ordinance and you have fines accruing, you better take it seriously because we're not going to compromise them. And in the long run, that'll get you a better result. And that's how the process is the result. If the process takes 5 years to get a result, that's a failure. And you just can't live with that. The building was taken down probably not because of the liens. It's because probably the new owner had another design on it. The current owner just did some foot dragging. You got the last word on this because we're going to run.
No, I think it's more of I also wonder if another variable here was the building was empty for, I mean, T-Bones. I remember going to T-Bones like in 2004 to watch football, 2005. And I think T-Bones closed like not long after. T-Bones closed like in 05 or 06. So I think the building's been empty for over a decade, and that's my recollection. So I guess my point in bringing, I wonder if that plays into this too, that it's, there's no business there. So it's easy for the owner not to do anything, and it's easy for things to linger, versus if there had been an active business in there, maybe it would have proceeded faster. It's more of just a observation. I don't know. It's just a thought, but that your concerns are noted.
Thank you. Thank you for noting my concern.
You're noted.
We anticipated, I think, Barbara Thompson's segment to be about 20 minutes. And I think we anticipated this blight segment to be about like 10 minutes. And we've used, just about an hour on these two things. So we're going to sign off. We got a lot of topics to cover on the next shows. We were going to try to cover masking, on this show, but did you want to slip in 60 seconds worth?
Yeah, well, not on masking. I had a story of the week, but I could slip that in.
Slip that story of the weekend. Yeah.
It is a story about thinking outside the box, about critical thinking, looking at all the data, and how maybe taking a different approach to an old problem can work. So I know that I look for the Record Journal to look for my story of the week, and so this story comes from the September 3rd Record Journal. I should clarify, it's September 3rd, 1985. So almost exactly 35 years ago, on the front pages of the Record Journal, just below the fold, we learned that the Titanic had been found by a team of French and American scientists. And I bring this up, I'm a huge Titanic buff, but it's just one of those things that we take it for granted now that the ship's always been there. We didn't know where it was for 70 years. But what's interesting to me is how they found it. That Dr. Ballard from Woods Hole, the way he found it was he challenged the assumption that the ship sank in one piece. And he looked at all the testimony, and there were some people and survivors who were convinced that it broke apart, but they were in the minority. So Ballard kind of latched onto that, and Ballard thought, well, if the ship broke apart, it's going to spill out all of its guts, the boilers and everything. I'm going to look for the debris field. And I'm not looking for the ship. I'm going to look for the debris, because that's going to be a bigger area, and that'll be a signpost to where the ship is. And that's how he found it. He saw a boiler on the ocean floor. So to me, there's all sorts. We could do a whole show on the Titanic. You're into blight ordinances. I'm into the Titanic. It's, we have different stuff we're into, but it's the 35th anniversary and a month. And so I just thought that was interesting. I just remembered that, and I found it on Google News Archive, and I remember being 13 and reading it. So anyway, critical thinking, outside the box, challenge your assumptions, look for the debris field, and you'll find what you need. That's my lesson. That's my story of the week. Let's
make that the final word. We thank our viewers for watching the Citizen Mike Show. It pops up on YouTube a day or two after we produce it. We usually produce it on Tuesday, maybe on a Wednesday. Goes up on WPAA. We try to get the clip to them in time for Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 9. I think Saturday morning at 10 o'clock it goes up on WPAA also. And we thank WPAA for doing that, and Susan Huizenga, the hardworking executive director. Good night, everybody. Good night, Chris.